Overseas this evening, there is open warfare on the streets of Bangkok, Thailand, following more violent clashes between the Thai government and protesters. More than 20 are dead. The U.S. Embassy in Bangkok is evacuating staff family members who wish to leave, and the State Department has issued a travel warning. Celia Hatton has more.
After 3 days of fighting between government troops and red-shirted protesters, more than 20 people have been killed, scores wounded, and the streets of Thailand's capital, Bangkok, resemble a battlefield. The anti-government protesters, who call themselves the Red Shirts, have burned tires, fired slingshots, and tossed Molotov cocktails to defend their encampment from the troops, who were using tear gas, rubber bullets, and live ammunition as they try to seal off the protesters' camp. The situation escalated Thursday after a rogue army general who was advising the protesters was shot in the head, presumably by government snipers. He's in critical condition, reportedly near death. It's some of the worst violence in nearly 2 months of unrest. The Red Shirts, mostly poor rural people, want the return of their former leader, Thaksin Shinawatra, who was ousted 4 years ago in a coup. The government had offered a peace deal, agreeing to elections in November. But this latest outbreak of violence puts that in doubt, as the government says it will no longer negotiate with the Red Shirts. The number of protesters is shrinking from a peak of 10,000 to just a few thousand now, as food and water supplies dwindle. Many who have stayed are vowing to sacrifice their lives. Current Prime Minister Abhisidwe Chachua claims he's trying to end the standoff with minimum bloodshed. Though with the violence only escalating, that goal's already long gone. Celia Hatton, CBS News, Beijing.
For a first-hand account of what's happening on the ground in Thailand, I spoke with New York Times reporter Thomas Fuller. He was interviewing that rogue general on Thursday night, standing only 2 feet away from him when those sniper shots were fired.
I was talking with him alone with my interpreter, and we were firing questions at him, and there was a loud blast. He dropped to the ground looking pretty lifeless, and he was carried away by his people, and at this point he's, I think it's on death's door.
Are the soldiers tonight using live fire on the protesters?
Yes, they are, and the military has said as much. They said they're using it in self-defense.
How bad is the situation there tonight?
It's a very, very eerie night. The public lights have been turned off. Bangkok usually kind of twinkles at night, and it's quite dark and still, but then every few minutes there'll be a blast, or there'll be gunfire. From my window here I can see flashes. Bangkok has not been this racked by violence in a long time, if ever.
Is it a stretch to call this a civil war right now, or would you say the country is much closer to civil war?
There's a lot more of Thailand that is stable. I think it's probably premature. No one would say we're there yet, but are we close? I'll leave that up to the experts.
That was reporter Thomas Fuller of the New York Times in Bangkok, Thailand.